Alright, in this video we're going to look at the process of multiplying decimals. So it's similar to adding and subtracting with a few differences, mostly with the location of the decimal point. So if we look at the steps to do this, much like addition and subtraction, we want to stack it. So we're going to stack the multiplicants, and but instead of lining up the decimal, we're going to line them up on the far right. Do not line up the decimal point. Sometimes it will work out to where it's lined up, but it is not necessary or needed. After that, we're just going to straight up solve by multiplying. And after we solve, to figure out where the decimal goes in the product, we count the total number of digits behind the decimal point in the expression. Now, whatever that totals up to, we place the decimal point in the product with that same number of places. All right, so let's put these steps to action here and look at our first example. If we take 5 and 1200ths and we want to multiply that by 2, so we want to double it. Well, our first step is to stack the multiplicants, lining them up on the far right. So we're going to take 5 and 1200ths and we're going to multiply that by 2. Now, here's the biggest difference between multiplication and addition and subtraction. Our decimal point in 5 and 1200ths is between the 5 and the 1. Our decimal point in the whole number 2 is actually at the end. And so we have not lined them up, and that's okay. All right, step 2, let's solve. So 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 5 is 10. Now, where to place the decimal point? We don't necessarily bring it straight down. What we do is we count the total number of digits behind the decimal point in the expression. So in 5 and 1200ths, there's 1, 2, and in the whole number 2, there's none. So in our answer, there needs to be a total of 2 places behind the decimal point. So we just go over 1, 2, and we're left with 10 and 2400ths. All right, let's move on to another example. Let's take 4 and 600ths, and we're going to multiply that by 3 and 1/10. All right, step 1, stack the multiplicants. So 4 and 600ths, we're going to multiply that by 3 and 1/10. Now this example does a much better job at showing how you do not line up the decimal points. All right, step 2, we're going to solve. All right, so after we've solved, we'll add these two partial products together. Now it's time to place the decimal point. I'll get that up in the camera so you can see it. All right, in 4 and 600ths, there are 2 digits behind. 1, 2. In 3 and 1/10, there's only 1. So in my entire expression, there are 3 digits behind the decimal. So in my product, there needs to be 3 digits behind the decimal point. So we'll count over 1, 2, 3. So my product is 12 and 586 thousandths. And if we were to do a quick estimation, if we estimate 4 and 600ths, to 4, 3 and 1/10 to 3, 4 times 3 is 12. Well, our product is close to 12, so that's reasonable. All right, let's look at one more example here for multiplying decimals. Let's take 6 and 7500ths. I'm going to multiply that by 9/10. Step 1, stack them, lining them up on the far right. So 6 and 7500ths multiplied by 9/10. Step 2, we're going to solve. It's 45, 63 plus 4 is 67, and then 54 plus 6 is 60. Now we're going to count the number of digits behind the decimal point in our expression. So there's 1, 2 in 6 and 7500ths, and there's just 1 in 9/10. So in our product, there needs to be a total of 3 places behind the decimal point. So 1, 2, 3. So our answer is 6 and 75 thousandths, which makes sense because 6 and 75 thousandths, we'll say it's 6, 9/10 is close to 1, 6 times 1 is 1, or 6 times 1 is 6, and so that's approximately what our answer is. All right, so in review, stack them just like addition and subtraction. Line them up on the right, so they're lined up on the right, lined up on the right, lined up on the right. Do not line up the decimal points. Solve, count the number of places behind the decimal point in the expression, and that is your total number of places behind the decimal point in your product.